Hey, welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 11. I'm Games editorial manager Jeremy Dunham, and as always, I am joined by the Podcast Beyond team. Beyond! As always, Chris Roper, editor-in-chief of the PlayStation team.
What up, homies?
And we have editors Jeff Haynes and Greg Miller.
What up?
This is Beyond!
And associate editor Ryan Clements.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Everybody have a good 3-day weekend?
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah, it was all right. Played a lot of Bioshock.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Ditto.
Did you beat it?
Yeah, I'm playing through it for the second time now because I got the bad ending the first time, so now I'm doing the good ending. Mm-hmm. But well, that's all we'll say. We don't want to give away anything else.
Yeah.
Too bad that game's not coming to the PlayStation 3, huh?
Damn them. Damn them.
Now, if you're wondering why this is posted on Tuesday, as I just said, we had a 3-day weekend. Yesterday was Labor Day in the United States. So for our Canadian neighbors, anybody else who listens to us, that's why we were gone on Mondays. We celebrated not working by not working.
We're not slacking.
That's right. Well, beginning of the show, Roper Report time.
Time for some news.
Okay, so there was a couple interesting bits of information, I guess, last week. One thing is that the last week on the podcast we announced, or I guess it came out the same day, that Manhunt 2 got a release date. It was sort of redone, coming out as an M-rated game on Halloween. A day or two later, the ESRB announced that they're not going to disclose the changes that they found between the two games. So nobody's going to know why it all of a sudden is an M.
But then we found out later that maybe we can, because a couple of regions outside of the U.S. are going to publish the original unedited version of the game.
Right. So you could, I guess, play through both versions or look for board readers to post stuff. Yeah.
Or we could do the lazy way and just bug them till they tell us.
Yeah. But But officially, we're not going to get a reason from the ESRB. But anyway, let's see. Sony last week announced in a plan to hopefully bolster their sales of PS2s because they haven't already sold 120 million of them. They're coming out with a white PS2 that is SingStar themed. Greg's very happy about these. He's pumping his fist right now.
I'm so excited.
So
I've been holding off for quite a few years to buy a PS2, but now it's got my interest.
Now that it's white.
Now it's got my interest.
His personal karaoke machine dreams have been realized.
On last Friday, you may have seen that our layer review went up, and it just so happened to be that possibly as early as Thursday, but it looked more like Friday. It looked like stores were selling the game early, and it didn't seem like stores had been told to hold it or whatever, and so lots of people were able to get the game early last week. I don't know what the official date or official stance is by EBs all across the U.S., but I know a lot of them were selling it early, so a lot of people out there have gotten the game in their hands.
We could definitely mail order Lair from EB or GameStop as early as the 30th.
Yeah.
And it was ready, and people were playing it and already reacting to a review the day that we posted it, actually. So I think people had it that early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then,
A lot of strong opinions.
That's all we need to say.
We can come back to that in a second. But and then lastly, the other interesting bit is that Sony announced that there would be a total of 40 PS3 games at TGS this year. And I have the list of games in front of me, and some of them are pretty cool games, like Devil May Cry 4, Echo Chrome, Little Big Planet, Uncharted, GT5 Prologue, Ratchet and Clank, White Knight Story, Assassin's Creed, etc. So there's some games in there that totally make sense. Then there's some stuff that's a little questionable, like of course, it's Japan, so it's coming out in a different region that might not be out there, but you have games like Spider-Man 3 and Transformers, which came out the past couple months in the U.S.
Huge titles.
Then there's games...
Pirates just won't stop video games.
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean. But then you have titles like Tony Hawk's Project 8. And I'm not talking about Proving Ground, which is coming out I think Halloween, this year.
October,
on PS3 and 360. I'm talking about Project 8, the game that came out last year,
the launch
is going to be in full effect at TGS this year. I don't know what they're thinking.
Well, the Birdman needs time to fly across the ocean.
Yeah.
He's only one man on a skateboard.
Yeah, so... But then you have, Dark Sector and Time Crisis 4 and some other stuff will be there. So it's a pretty interesting list. The list is on our site. So it's a decent lineup. Nothing too surprising here.
That'd be what site? IGN.com.
Yes, it is.
Very much.
That's all I got.
I think we need to check our servers.
Well, as promised several weeks ago, this is the Lair PSQ edition of the PlayStation podcast, known as Podcast Beyond. That means that Greg gets to fend off about 600 angry emails.
Oh, man.
You hear this stack? Listen, this is stacked. I'm probably not going to ask most of them.
I don't like these questions.
So let's just get down to brass tacks, buddy.
Brass tacks with Greg Miller.
That's right. Your own show, brass tacks.
Oh God.
We got a lot of negative feedback about that review.
And not as much as I expected. I still think the Tomb Raider Anniversary backlash was bigger than the Lair backlash, because the Lair backlash has been very contained to only a select number of people defending the control scheme or attacking me mainly, I should say. I mean, everybody's got their opinion on 6-axis controls strictly for the game, but it seems like I was expecting a lot more personal attacks than what I have been getting, and there's been a lot. Don't get me wrong, but on the same side of that coin, there's a lot of people defending me or defending the opinion that it isn't that great of a game. So on that side, I think there's more unity.
Outside criticism aside, what is your major issue with the controls? In a nutshell, explain what the problem is with Lair.
They just aren't fun, and they don't work, and they completely take you out of the experience. Like I said in the review, I'm a huge fan of story-driven games, and this game has a really interesting story. I mean, you're the Sky Guard. There's, it used to be one nation together. You worshipped one god. It got split up by this volcano, and now you're these warring communities separated by decades and decades of brawling and probably hundreds of years of brawling and fighting, and you don't remember how close you used to be to these people. It's a very it's a story that we could all take to heart. But
It's sort of like IGN.
So I mean, I wanted to play it and I wanted to see the story. And in the beginning, you get going. You're like, all right, they put you in these huge open environments, and you're flying around and you're doing this and you're learning the controls and you're fighting some guys on the ground and all this other stuff, and it works. And it's like, okay, this isn't that bad. This is great. But as the game progresses and the story gets more and more deep, the environments get more specific and your objectives get more specific. And as soon as it gets specific, you lose all semblance of control of that dragon. Because you're flying in these little canyons and you're trying to bank right, and you're holding on and banking for dear life, and it'll hit the wall and it'll just slide against the wall and then bank to the left. You're like, oh no! And you got to go back against for specific people, and you got to try targeting with the D-pad, and it chooses what it locks onto. You get a very limited window of you'll be coming at something, there'll be a white circle on it, you can hit down to lock on, but a lot of times you'll be coming at something, go to lock on, and it'll switch to something over here, and you fly off into a different corner of the screen. The objective system doesn't work. Like it's very helpful. Like it doesn't bog you down with stuff on the screen as far as go do this, go do that, blah blah. You can just click on one of your thumbsticks and it'll pop up and tell you what the objective is you're supposed to be doing. And it's got a little radar, not even a radar. It's got a little triangle up in the corner to direct you where you go. But it's so ambiguous. I mean, this is a game that needed a radar desperately. And so you're trying to follow this little thing, and then you get there, and you're like, well, where are the Guardians, and blah, blah.
Obviously, comparisons to Drakengard are going to come into play. Now you've played through the game. How much like Drakengard is it for those who haven't played the Lair yet?
I haven't played Drakengard.
So there you go.
Oh, God.
Very good.
Jeff has played Drakengard.
I have
Did you
played
watch me
Drakengard.
play some Lair?
Well, yeah. That's the one thing that I was kind of worried about. I mean, I haven't actually played Lair. I will put that out there right now. So I'm not really going to know that much about the control scheme.
You were the guy 2 weeks ago. It's like, oh God, it looks terrible. It's a disaster. I've played it though.
I was getting to that. I haven't played it. I've watched Greg play it. I've watched Chris play it, and from what it looked like a higher res version of Drakengard. It looked like, at least the battle sequences that I saw, which were primarily them over a battlefield with thousands of characters that you could swoop down and attack on a dragon, and it looked like it was just almost the exact same gameplay, and it almost felt like, had we not learned this lesson once before with Drakengard,
Twice
then
before,
they made,
dude. There were 2 Dragonguards.
I was about to go into, and then they made a sequel, and then they made Lair, and you interrupted.
But you haven't played Drakengard, so nobody cares now.
No, he hasn't
No, I
played
haven't
Lair.
played Lair. What the?
I know.
Jesus.
It's like I'm the cookie and Jeff's the cream,
That's
and
right.
like you put our two opinions together and we'd be perfect.
You want the
call me
Reese's
an Oreo
peanut
man?
butter
What
cup.
the hell?
No,
I've played both games. They're very similar.
I've played both games too, and they are pretty close.
oh man, that sucks. Drakengard sucks so bad.
Yeah.
I actually liked the first one, but
Yeah.
I remember that was 4 years ago that I played it.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I wasn't quite yet tired of the Dynasty Warriors formula.
Yeah.
It's basically
Well,
Dynasty Warriors.
That's the one thing that
Yes, guys.
it's the one thing that was in that game that
Yeah.
I kind of wish was tied into Lair is you'll start. I don't know how many missions are in throughout the entire game, but I know in the first couple of chapters you do it a couple times where you start the mission on foot and then you just walk to your dragon, you press triangle, and you can't do anything else on foot. So there's no reason for them to spend the time to make your character move and apply all the animations.
He looks real
all
stiff.
you do is walk to your dragon and press a button, and I mean. Drakengard lets you get off your dragon and fight on the ground and upgrade your abilities and stuff.
It's an interactive movie.
Yeah, but so that was kind of cooler. So you actually had two elements, and the stuff in Lair, the ground stuff didn't really work for any of the bits that I played, and it was kind of like
you're slow in the air, and then you get to the ground, you're even slower.
Yeah, so it was mixed a little bit better in Drakengard, I think. It wasn't perfect, but.
A lot of people ask, I'm not going to attribute it to any one person because we've received this question a lot. If they had included an option to control the dragon with the analog sticks rather than 6-axis, would that have affected your opinion of the game?
That's such a tough question. I mean, I can't, change my opinion based on, what might have been or could have been. Or, I mean, yeah, it probably would have. I mean, a lot of people, for some reason, not a lot of people, but there's a handful of Greg haters taking away that it's that I hate 6-axis and that's my problem.
Graders.
And blah, blah, blah. Ooh, graders. Mm-hmm. But I have nothing against the control scheme. It just doesn't work in the game. Like, I'm not knocking it because it's 6-axis. I'm knocking it because it does not work. It's not responsive. Jerking the thing for 180 didn't work for me. And then even still, it'd be one time when you'd be jerking and jerking and jerking.
Just got a little bit steamy in here.
And much like my grandfather, nothing would happen. It's okay, both my grandfathers are dead.
Jesus.
So nothing would happen, and then there'd be other times when I'd make a subtle movement, adjusting in my chair, and the dragon would take off and do a speed burst into a wall, and I screw up what I was going for.
Spitkicker would like to know if there's any sort of sensitivity adjustments that you can make for the 6-axis controls, or if it's just the same thing throughout.
Same thing throughout.
Fun.
And Miggy13 wants to know if we think that they would ever release an analog stick patch, possibly.
It's one of those things. It's a good question. I think I would hope they would. I mean, I don't know if they would. I hope they would. I don't know if that makes me think they would, though. So you can play it on PSP through remote play.
Yeah, part of the
without all the buttons.
Yeah, without any of the buttons
or the motion sensitivity. So
one thing related to that though is every time that we talk to Julian Eggebrecht, the Factor 5 founder, leader, overlord dude. Anyway, he always said that the 6-axis was perfect for controlling the dragon because you don't control the dragon so much as you control your rider, and so you're influencing what the dragon does, and so you're never going to have perfect finite control over the dragon. And so, given that and how much they were sticking to their guns about how they don't need analog control for it and blah, 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 I don't know if they would ever, kind of backtrack and say, okay, well, let's add a patch because this is what the fans wanted. But, I mean, they could also take that approach and say, hey, the fans actually wanted it. None of it's in their hands and, maybe release it. I don't think we're going to see it, though.
Me either. I would like to see it, though. I think that it would help things. I don't know if it would make the game better, but it would definitely help.
Exactly. I mean, the problem is, there's just the control is a complete deterrent to ever finishing the story and finding out what happens to these people.
Some of our readers would like to know where you think the game went wrong. They put a lot of time into it, a lot of money. What do you think was the turning point that made it go downhill?
When they said, yeah, we're going to stick with 6-axis, and somebody said, hey, this doesn't work all that great. And they're like, we're sticking with it. We're going to make it work. And then they never did. Somewhere in that development cycle, somebody had to say, this isn't as precise as we need it to be. And they're like, well, I don't know these guys, and I've never talked to them, so I can't say that they took a cop out and were like, well, we'll just say that the dragon has a mind of its own, or but that would be where it is. And then they bet their chips on that, like you're saying that you're the human, you're influencing the dragon's control, and they expected people to take that away and be okay with it.
We just need to get you and Julian in a room and hug it out.
Hug it out.
Just hug it out, bitch. Hug it out, bitch.
Hug it out. a lot of our listeners also are curious if you think that Lair is a different game than what we first saw last year or before, because we had a lot of positive previews when we first saw the game, and then as recently as the one from the UK guys, even more recently. So a lot of people are curious if there was some sort of major change that's taken place.
And that's an excellent question. And I mean, that's something that we talked about this before. How do you write a preview and say that this isn't working or this is? And how do you not sound like you're being a hype machine for a game when you play it? Right. And I think it really came down to Lair. Like I said in the review, I mean, those first 4 levels are so open, and so there's only like one objective to get to that you could. I mean, I could easily see me picking that up at E3 or Sony Gamers Day and be like, okay, this has potential. And they still have how many months to work on it? Yeah, I could see where this would go. And I mean, it is graphically impressive. It does look good. I mean, the cinemas look awesome. And then you're in game, and there's some frame rate drops and stuff like that. But again, if you were at a preview event and you saw a frame rate drop, or sometimes you'll swoop in on enemies, right, and they'll look like one thing, and then a little bit closer they'll switch over to like their actual what they should be like things. I would see all that and say, hey, you know what, it's looking great, it's doing this. The controls are a little bit wonky, but they can tighten that up, no problem. But I mean, that's where I think the breakdown happens, is that you're playing something under the pretense that, hey, this isn't final, this isn't what it is, and then you get the final build and it is what it was. You know what I mean? There's that.
There are no improvements made.
And I can't speak to that exactly. I would imagine that's what happened since I didn't play it beforehand.
And that's one thing I think listeners and our readers need to remember is that, when you go to see a game for the first time, it's far from complete. You have to sort of give it the benefit of the doubt because it's all about potential at that point. What does this game potentially have the ability to do? And then that's why we make the distinction between a review and a preview. That's why we only score the review so that people are clear on what the final product is versus what it could have been.
Yep.
And that's it for our Lair PSQ. Everything else you can go ahead and read in Greg's review or watch it in the video review. And that's that. That's another chapter gone. Speaking of which, that brings us to reader mail.
Reader mail?
I did that in your honor when you were gone. I don't know if you heard it or not back when you were taking down all those beers in Germany.
Exactly. Like I'd listen to this show if I'm not on it.
He probably subscribed to the 3 Red Lights and something by mistake.
What's Chronicles saying today?
We have not much. If you listen to the podcast from 3 Red Lights, Craddock doesn't talk much. We should bring him out of his shell. We have a winner for the Hulk action figure that's going to be signed by the PlayStation team.
I'm interested to hear
Plus
this because I don't know who the winner is.
The winner is a man by the name of Clen. Or maybe it's a girl, I don't know.
Clint, how do you spell
I'm thinking C-L-E-N.
Okay.
I'm thinking it's a man, though. Great nickname. The nickname is Sex Target.
I'm guessing it's a girl.
And in the interest of time, I'm not going to read the full email, but he sent a very long, story-driven email about why he deserves the action figure, and it basically broke down to a really nice story about how he went hunting for rats in West Africa in 1998. So,
awesome.
Even if it's true or false, I like the email. It made me smile. Clinton, congratulations. Send us your address. You will get the PlayStation team plus me, who's just my own guy. Signature, the signed Hulk. It's still in its package, and you can take it out and play with it or do whatever it is you want with it.
So we're going to sign the package.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if we signed the actual Hulk figure, it'd probably smudge and you wouldn't be able to read it.
Nobody wants to smudge that action figure.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, we want to be the first people to devalue an action figure without actually removing it from the package.
Very good.
I think that would be a great move. So, Clint, congratulations. Still waiting to hear from the Game Scoop folks on who's going to win my Shenmue 2 signed poster. So we'll see who wins that one.
I think we're doing it for 50, aren't we?
Yep, episode 50. That's coming up. Here we go. Ready for the reader mail questions? First question. This comes from MacMan. Wants to know if we can review Deadhead Fred anytime soon. And he wants to know if it's good or not. He respects our opinions. I know we are reviewing it this week.
It's coming up this week.
Jeff, you're reviewing it.
Yeah.
Give us your early impressions.
It's really it's a fun game. It harkens back to a lot of those old school action games. It's got a little it's got a few platforming elements in it, but it's really like an action adventure style game. John C. McGinley is just freaking hilarious in this. I mean, like, it really does.
It's the guy from Scrubs, yeah.
Yeah. It caters solely to like that teen audience, but like a snarky teen audience. So every now and then you might die because you don't understand where an enemy's coming from, or you might not see where a certain puzzle is, and on the reload screen, you might hear him just quip off something like, hey, dumbass, why don't you try not killing me this time? And so you get like all these things where he literally will just fire off one-liners back and forth.
Sounds like what we say when Chef drives us to lunch.
Yay! You know what?
That's funny because it's true.
Hey, keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times. That's all I gotta say.
Do you think it's a fair comparison to say that it's sort of an updated 3D version of Kid Chameleon?
Possibly. It's kind of got that same sensibility where every single head has its own specific abilities and traits. They've got their own weaknesses. You need to acquire certain ones to be able to get to different areas, and you have to backtrack to some places once you gain heads to unlock it. Which I think is probably part of the biggest thing is that you go through a certain percentage of the game and you have access to none of the heads that you really need for certain things. So once you do gain like some of those later heads, then all of a sudden you have to realize, oh shit, there's like 5 or 6 separate areas in this one zone alone that I hadn't had access to, that I've got to go back and like track down if I'm going to, take on this job or do these levels or whatever.
Are there hidden items in there? Because it sounds like it sort of has that Metroid vibe to it.
You know what? There's a ton of like really hidden mini things. Like there's side missions. Since you're a private detective, there's side missions that you can take on. There's mutant cockfighting games and cockfighting rings, which are just kind of funny. There's pool and pinball games. There's all these like other things, but like as you collect items, because you collect a ton of things. You have like a couple quest items and then like junk that you can sell back for different things that you need to purchase. But everything that you gain has a purpose, and so there's all these things that you kind of use, and it's really interesting because it all winds up helping you out in some way or another, whether it's just for money or
how are the load times. When I was playing that at E3, the load times are sort of long, and they fixed that.
They fixed it. It's now, I think the load times are anywhere between like 5 to 7 seconds, depending upon just how new a section is. The one thing that does suck is that you do have a lot of them every now and then, because the districts that you go through or certain areas that you go through are relatively decently sized, but there's a lot of different pathways that you can then take. So if you wind up going into a new room or going into like an alleyway that hasn't been there, you may run into that quick load time, which you can skip. You can skip the initial animation of Fred like opening a door and walking through or something else, but you still have like that 5 to 7 second load time every now and then, which does add up.
Chris Harpreet would like to know if Gran Turismo 4 for the PSP, or whatever it might eventually be called, Gran Turismo Mobile, if that's still in development.
Apparently it is, but that's all we know. We actually know nothing else aside from that. My guess is that the team was working on and said, you know what, we're spending a ton of time taking away from GT5, which is the bread and butter winner, and so let's go and focus on that. And then I think what's going to happen is they're going to bring out a mobile version of GT5. So I think GT4 is dead, and that project has just evolved into GT5 for the PSP.
Defiant Being would like us all to know, it's not really a question, it's a statement. I'd like to know that they've begun saying beyond when they kill people in Warhawk on online games.
Beyond!
So that it's taking off. And then Brett would also like to know if the PS3 version of Stranglehold, when that's going to be reviewed, why there was a review for the Xbox 360 version and at the PS3 edition.
Because the PS3 one comes out later.
That's right, and we haven't fully played through the PS3 version yet.
Correct.
Hillary is going to take a look at it, though, when we get it, and we'll let you know then.
It's a couple weeks.
Yeah, so 17th, I believe, or
Something like
25th.
that.
17th is the computer version. Yep.
Yeah.
And then Raphael just bought God of War 2 to play on the PS3.
Very good purchase.
And already created the virtual PS2 memory card in the PS3, but the game never saves at the checkpoint and always loses progress. Is there something special he has to do to make it work?
Interesting.
No, I've played it on my
know.
PS3. It was fine.
There's a reason I chose that, because I had problems with Odin Sphere when I created a virtual memory card on my PS3, because I was playing Odin Sphere on it, and like every maybe 5 times I went to save, it would say your data is corrupted, and I would just, luckily since I was currently playing that file, I could just resave it, and I wouldn't technically lose progress. But I don't know if this means there's some flaws in their virtual memory card or something, because I've had similar problems to
It's a
what
good
this
question.
person is describing.
Obviously one that we can't answer without more investigation, but I would recommend sending an email to Sony support. Also keep an eye on what version of the PlayStation 3 firmware you're running. So far, I haven't personally run into any problems.
I haven't either.
And I played through God of War on my PS3, so. Bam Bam wants to know if they're done leasing movies on the PSP.
Leasing them as in like lease to own?
Releasing. But he said leasing, but I think he means releasing.
You're renting UMD movies?
Pay periods, plans.
I don't watch movies on the PSP.
Me either.
But here's what I figure, though. I don't know if they're officially dead or if people are still coming out with the releases or whatever, but you have to figure that the new PSP, the slim one with the TV output, would help that. If they're still going to come out, now would be the time when it would pick up.
They still do release a few, but they're primarily like a few movie studios, and only like some of the very specific movies, like ones that they think are blockbusters or did a lot of really big traffic.
King Kong's next door.
Random bumping.
I saw my fiance out there talking to Nick, so I can't.
Oh god, that can't be good at all.
IGN Flynn would like to know, hey IGN, will the PSP be getting a port of NHL 08 or 2K8 this year? Thanks.
No.
I don't think so.
Anybody?
I'm pretty sure on NHL now, for
Yeah.
sure. I was stupid. Oh wait, I'm pretty sure 08 from EA. No, I don't know about 2K, but I'd imagine no as well.
No, last time I checked.
Yeah.
Nut job, Jim.
Good job, Jim.
Has a question linked to last week's section on a little bit we did on the rating system. Currently, IGN breaks down their score into 5 sections: presentation, graphics, sound, gameplay, lasting appeal. But why presentation? Does anybody really care about how the menus look? Surely this could be just incorporated into graphics. I'm sure we'd all agree that the most important part of the game is how it plays and how fun it is. I propose that IGN drops the presentation category completely and either double weight gameplay, since it's far and away the most important part of a review. Let me handle this, please.
Uh-oh.
Oh, snap.
Very quickly.
You called down the thunder? Well, now you go.
From the man.
Number one, none of the scores that are used in our breakdown of those 5 categories are weighted in any way. It's not, for instance, we can call to a competitor like GameSpot who has a weighted system where a certain amount of points are assigned to specific categories. We take a different approach in that those are sections that we call out in case you're curious. Presentation includes things like load times and the menus, yes, but it's other things than that. The manual, how well the package is put together, production values, overall. So it's not just visually related. And on top of that is that it really has no bearing on any particular formula or whatnot, like I said earlier, that the final score reflects. The final score is all about what is the total package. This is what we think, and those other scores are just meant there's a supplement for people to, hey, I wonder what they thought about the visuals without having to read the whole review. Mm-hmm. So there's really no specific formula attached to it. Just keep that in mind. You wanted to add something, Chris?
Yeah, I want to add that a lot of times if you read through the score boxes, it sounds like presentation's kind of like, yeah, the menus are clean and blah, 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 and there's not really much to say. But presentation sometimes serves very good points to point out things that are broken, like, I don't know, the cutscenes are terrible, or the cutscenes are very good, or whatever else. So graphics will always play the same sort of thing. How the game looks, sounds, always the same thing. But presentation's kind of hit or miss depending on what type of game it is. And so sometimes it's more important than others, and sometimes it's kind of a waste of category in that area, and we kind of just go, it's good, whatever. And sometimes it's very important, and it deserves something to be called out. So
Jim also needs to keep in mind that gameplay is very important, but presentation is also important in certain aspects. It all depends on the game. That's why we don't use a weighted system, because in certain genres of games or types of games, some aspects are more important than others. Take an adventure game, for instance. Adventure games, which are very heavily based on story, presentation is a huge factor in how well the story comes across. Speaking of story, that's also something we consider as part of the presentation.
Right.
So, there's a lot of different things you have to factor in. If you look at something like Guitar Hero, who's not the best-looking game in the world, we still loved it for several years because of how fun it was. So, all in all, pay no attention to the numbers.
Pay no attention to the man wearing the curtain.
we are looking at our review system, as we always do. We're always looking to find ways to improve it. But as we've said a million times, there is no perfect review system. There never will be.
pizza scale is perfect.
there never will be. Dream versus PS2, another regular, wants to know why we never talk about the PSP. How many of us actually have a PSP, and will home ever be on PSP? Just talk anything about PSP.
Somebody please.
Okay,
That's pretty damn general.
Here's a of the moment topic. We got in the PSP Slim last week, and I wrote up a nice fatty feature on that thing.
It's very slim.
Yeah.
Lighter.
I don't like
Lighter.
the new eject.
Thin.
I don't like the new disc entry
The new
system.
ejecting is
It's
kind
very
of ghetto.
goofy.
Yeah.
You just toss it in.
Yeah.
No eject button. You just pry it open with your hands.
But I'll tell you, the video out stuff was awesome, though. Man, I was like, because one of my problems with the PSP and playing any sort of handheld games, DS or whatever, is you sit in a chair and you're basically staring at your crotch the whole time, because,
Nice.
whatever.
What a day.
But,
Better than
I
drinking.
was playing Tiger Woods and a couple other games, and I went back and played some more, what is that, Brooktown High? And, I was just playing that on my TV, and, it was way better, I think, than having to play it on the screen.
And Phil Harrison said at E3, by the way, that home functionality will be available on the PSP.
Well, considering there's the virtual PSP control system, you would only think.
So there you go. They're talking about the PSP, and we brought up Deadhead Fred earlier, so we're done.
And we all do own PSPs.
Yeah, every
There.
single person in this
There you
room
go.
has a PSP that they can play.
How much
Yep.
do you play it?
All the freaking time, especially since most of my reviews now are PSP.
I don't play it as much. I'm more of a console gamer. I prefer console games to handheld games. It's just my preference.
Right.
But I
As
do
do
have
I.
one.
Okay.
But I definitely like the PSP.
Rober?
Eh?
Okay. You don't play that much? No. Okay.
Greg,
Well, I review a lot of PSP games myself, so I play mine quite a bit. I'm excited for the Slim. The reason I asked, I got attacked on the boards the other day for saying that there weren't that many. I said that when I read Monster Hunter, I said people should owe it to their starving PSP to give it to them. And everybody's like, I play my PSP all the time. Like, you're not the normal person. Anyone I talk to outside the boards never uses their
You know
PSP.
who plays a lot of PSP games?
Mark Nix.
People in movies.
Yeah,
Have you ever noticed this? That
Yeah.
lately the system that everyone's playing in a movie is a PSP. So that's a good marketing push there by Sony. Blaine99 wants to know why Chris Roper hates Nintendo.
Oh, snap.
I don't. Okay, so I don't hate Nintendo directly. I don't like.
It's an auxiliary hate.
I think I think Nintendo is a fine company. I think they make some really dumb decisions every once in a while, and I think probably what you're referring to is my most recent mailbag update where I mentioned something about that. I think the PS3. Somebody wrote in asking about the PS3 was worth it, and I said that it was. You can't really say whether it's better than the 360 or not because it's a long-term thing, but I certainly think that it's better than the Wii, and that's probably where he takes this from. And basically, I just think the Wii is a fad, and that eventually you're going to have played all the games where the control works well, what it does, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, now I'm just using the control, and where's the gameplay? And
I think the Wii,
You still own a Wii, though.
The Wii is running.
Yeah, I never use it.
I think
but-
long term the Wii will run into the same problem that the GameCube had, where it's that a lot of its software is going to be primarily first party. I think third party wants to support the Wii, but I'm still not convinced that, for the most part, that they're really taking advantage of the hardware. And
Yeah.
PS3, for in a lot of aspects, is actually running that same problem right now, where you have a lot of just ports.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll change.
That's the one thing is if you make a game for the 360, you can put it to the PS3 with some programming crap, but everything the game works exactly the same, and so you get a nice little shortcut basically on cost to get two versions of the same game out. If you want to go to the Wii, you have to change all kinds of crap and put secondary team on it, change the controls and blah blah blah. So it seems easier to get the game on two platforms to do PS3 and 360 than to do just one game on the Wii. But
We'll see. I'm liking Metroid so far, though. Just picked that one up. Just started.
I have
It's pretty
to
good.
beat Bioshock before I play Metroid.
Did you ever play Paper Mario?
No.
Sauken just wanted to make a statement. Thinks that Jeff's voice is oddly sexy.
Why, thank you. You know I try.
Somebody on my blog sounded
let me
like
give you
butter.
You sound like that
Like
chocolate
butter.
guy right
Like
now.
butter?
Yeah. I done for my PSP Friday poll. I had done who's your favorite PlayStation editor, and although we're all getting beaten.
Somebody wanted to feed the ego.
No, I didn't expect to win because this is right in the heat of the lair review. But we're all getting beaten by nobody. They all suck. That's got like 80%.
Never put that, because everyone
Yeah.
always votes for the joke answer.
I know,
Yeah.
but you have to put a joke answer for everything.
But then you're
Toaster.
by putting a
Oh,
joke
Greg.
answer and everything, you're
Yeah.
automatically nullifying your poll. And Chris Roper's got to go, I think.
I gotta go play Rock Band.
That's right.
So,
Bye.
which is
And
more-
wait, before you go, they can look for the Rock Band preview tonight, correct?
correct. Very well. Yes. I'm about to go to EA. Tomorrow is their what the hell is it called these days?
The EA Studio Showcase 07.
Used to be Hot Summer Nights,
Summer
and
Nights.
at one point it was Camp EA.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
Changes
all
its
tomorrow.
name a lot.
But yeah, we're writing about Rock Band tonight. I don't. Apparently, we were supposed to see it this morning. Harmonix is sending out a brand new build. Hopefully, they have it set up right now. But there's a couple new songs to play, so I don't know what they are yet. So
All right. Well, have
surprise
fun.
to me.
He'll know. He'll know, and you'll know later tonight. When he does
Yes,
his preview.
and for the first time today, I'm going to try playing drums on hard. So I'm going to fail. So that was
Good
going to be
luck.
good. Yeah. All right.
Well, farewell, Roper. We will see you next week, and I'll see you every day because we work in the same building.
Near
And Roper's officially gone. And Game of Death 69
my
wants to
God.
know when Stranglehold demo is coming to PS3. Wants us to give Midway and Sony the Denim Smash treatment, and have either me or Jeff go over to F them up.
You damn Skippy.
I actually placed a call to Midway before the podcast to get a definitive answer, and no reply yet, unfortunately.
No.
I'm on my way to
Silly
go F them up.
deadlines. Silly
I'm on my
deadlines.
way to go F them
It's a
up
hell of a
right
hike.
now.
They're in Chicago.
I can do it, man.
Can I just come along?
Yeah.
We could film it. It could be we could follow, the Fat March show. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
We could follow it afterwards with the
Damn
effing
sure.
up Midway March.
We will do that shit, right?
That'd be great.
We'll
Rogue
go back
Leader?
to stay on
There you
target.
go.
Stay on target.
Still doesn't understand why Lair was so eviscerated in reviews. Just a statement.
It's not a good game. Usually bad games don't fare well in reviews. Unless you're Play Magazine.
Didn't know Jack wants to know what the best thing about working at IGN is. Anybody? I noticed the silence. Like, oh god,
Oh, God.
The people.
nothing.
We get bagels on Monday.
The people.
Free
But we got it
bagels.
today since yesterday was a
Yeah,
holiday as
well,
well.
yeah. For your
The-
first day of the week, you get bagels.
The people.
Every now and then there's beer Fridays.
The people. I agree. The best thing about
It's
Whiskey
the
and IGN is
people.
the people for sure.
We're all friends till we have to fire one of us.
That's right.
Then the grave robbing begins.
And then you go and siphon off someone's
They
desk.
were like, man, you remember what an asshole Greg was? Combat Wombat 2000 asks,
Why is my name so awesome?
what PS1 games would we like to see on the PlayStation Network
Metal Gear Solid.
and on PSP? as well?
Period.
I could see that. Brave Fencer Musashi. Little Tomba. I'm still calling for Legend of freaking Dragoon, people.
I'd like-
Get
yeah.
that shit done.
I'd like to see them expand sort of
Get it
the.
done.
Right now, they've got a habit of posting a lot of the smaller games, a lot
Yeah.
of pick up and play, other than Castlevania. I agree with Jeff. I like to see Legend of Dragoon, Xenogears.
Favorite story?
Xenogears,
Xenogears,
yeah. A lot of
favorite
the
story, I
older
like that.
games that had a lot of depth to them that you could play for a long time.
You know one that I think would actually work really well right
Clone
now
Wars.
for people that are, one that I think would work really well for a puzzle thing is Intelligent Cube.
Oh, yeah.
Really simple, really basic. I don't see why they can't just bring that one over.
I don't see why there's not just a new PS1 game on PSN every week.
Yeah,
it
especially-
seems like it'd be easy.
It's
well,
super
Japan
easy.
has like at least 50 to 75 now.
They
like,
have a ton of
on the
them.
Japanese store. I don't see why we don't get anything.
And a lot of them are games that they released over here. So it's not like they're Japanese only titles. I don't understand myself. I mean, even if they give us something like Blast Chamber, did anyone play that? Am I the only one who played that game? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I really started to show my age lately when I'm like, anyone ever play this game? Like, no.
Remember Pong?
My great uncle had a Pong machine.
Yeah.
He bought that thing. It's still sitting in his garage in Astoria, Oregon.
Does it
Nobody
work?
take it though.
Yeah,
Does
no.
it,
He likes
does it
that
work?
thing.
Track down the
It
dog.
works.
Awesome.
It does work. He only played
Road
it twice.
trip.
He only played it twice,
Played
and then
it
he put it.
twice.
Then
Put it
that's
away.
money.
Yep. Sean9989 says, since Lair and Heavenly Sword seem to be disappointments, do you think the PS3 will have any exclusive AAA titles for the end of the year? Or are we going to have to wait till 2008 to play something really good?
Have you heard of WoW Hog, people?
Yeah, Warhawk is very
Warhawk's
good.
amazing.
We don't forget also that Ratchet and Clank is still coming, and Uncharted is still
yeah.
coming. And those are three big titles right there.
Are you worried about Uncharted now?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I have total faith in Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
They're great developers.
No, yeah, me too.
And so is Insomniac. I'm not worried about those games at all. I think I'm not yet convinced that they're going to be the pinnacle of PS3 gaming. I have to wait and see. But I mean, as a fan of both development studios, I'm definitely anxious to play those games.
Yeah.
As everyone knows who's been listening to my critiques of Ratchet and Clank, the one thing that I would like them to do is put back the damn first-person controls. That's just me, though. I'm a bit of a stickler on that point. 2779 wants to know if everyone on the podcast will be buying Ratchet and Clank tools.
Yes.
Hells yes.
Probably.
Yep. I'll be getting it for free.
Yeah. but you know what? I think that part of the thing is like with people so worried about Lair and Heavenly Sword, it's not necessarily one of those things where it's like, are there going to be titles that's going to kind of justify our purchase of a PS3, or like what do we need for the rest of the year? Because those are at least three good games that are there. It's not necessarily going to be the system seller, but it's going to be something that if you already have the system right now, you can look forward to it, and you're not necessarily going to find yourself disappointed like apparently Heavenly Sword and Lair.
And Heavenly Sword may not be the AAA type of game that everyone wants it to be, but it's still pretty
Yeah.
decent. I mean, I
think-
enjoy it.
I think
There's-
it's awesome. Like, I
Really?
just have a slightly different opinion
I
than
haven't
Roper.
played anything
Yeah,
outside
I played
the demo.
the entire first 2 chapters, and I was like, sweet. So
There's
I
a lot of
probably-
people who are just, I think, were expecting a 10. And so it came
Right.
up, in the
Yeah.
7s, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh,
Well,
I mean,
You have a system.
it's still a good game.
when you have a system that, let's be honest, is thoroughly being outclassed in terms of its number of quality software.
You just launched
by
a
the
million
360.
Yeah.
Well, it's true.
I know it is.
It's
I
the
know.
truth. Right
I
now,
know.
you can get a lot more gameplay at your 360 than you can PS3, and that's for two reasons. One is the 360 has been around longer, and two, it's because the 360 has established franchises from the Xbox that was already in development for the 360 when they came over, where a lot of the PS3 games that were established PS2 franchises were not getting until next year and after. So it's all about timing, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's still early in its life cycle.
But there's also another thing that I actually saw on the boards, like just reading some of the posts and everything. But part of it is that the hype machine for some of these are so huge
Yeah.
that if you get anything that's lower than a certain expected score, people just go apeshit. I mean, like there was one guy who said, like, well, that's fine, but it's not exactly what I was looking for from my games. And I was like,
I know.
obviously, your games means you have an automatic expectation of what it's
Yeah.
going to be. And if it's not, you're going to send off 15, 20 separate posts on multiple boards saying how much we suck or how much the rating system is screwed.
Brand loyalty is a huge part of the video game market and the culture and whatnot, and there's a lot of that, and that's never going to go away.
No.
And it's always going to be an expectation of, Mount Rushmore.
the thing with the heads, yeah.
But then eventually, if it comes out and it's only the top of our building here in terms
Yeah.
of elevation, people are going to be like, "Oh, you suck," and that the system must suck and it's doomed. And
Yeah.
obviously, it's not doomed; it's still going strong. PS3 sales have actually continued to increase over time. They may not be
Setting records.
set,
and
yeah, exactly,
blowing
but
doors
they
off.
are improving on one another. So that's a positive sign for Sony, and we'll see what happens. I mean, it's a long ways to go. We're not even a year old into the system yet, and people
Yeah.
are already making predictions for the Wii and the PS3.
It is a cataclysm.
It's silly. 2779 also wants to know our thoughts on BioShock are. Is am I the only one in the room?
No, I haven't beaten it, but I've been playing it.
I haven't actually played it yet.
Okay.
It's-
Greg. Oh, you've been traveling.
I have
so.
a copy and I've been traveling. I just got back and Katie's leaving tomorrow and I'll start playing it.
Yeah.
I think it's an outstanding game. I wouldn't rate it. Having beaten it and now playing through the second time to get the other ending, I wouldn't rate it as high as Charles did. He thought it was incredible. I wouldn't quite go that high.
Where would you go?
I would go low nines, maybe 9 flat, 9-1. But that's just me. I'm a little bit, I think, harder to please in certain aspects for that genre because I've played so many first-person shooters. Charles has too, but I think that it's just about tastes. He's
Yeah,
really into
yeah.
that game, and I think that it does a lot of things well. Has great atmosphere, and it's really sad that that's not coming to PS3 because that's the sort of game that I think that you should want to get that out to as many people as possible because it is a rare game and that it does so many things well that everyone should play it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, like, there's. I think I'd probably fall somewhere within the middle of you and Charles because this is one of those games that I don't think that I've really played a game like this in a while and gone like, wow, this is not only a really well told story, but the mechanics, the atmosphere, just kind of the sheer experience of playing the game is one where in certain instances you almost don't want to be playing it yourself. You'd rather sit back and kind of watch like somebody else play it because there's so much going on, there's so much detail. You almost want to experience it for yourself without necessarily feeling like, oh my god, I fucked that up, I have to like restart at a Vita chamber because I got killed by a splicer.
That's how I ended up
something else.
That's how I ended up getting all the audio files because my wife was watching me play the whole time. When we put our daughter down for her naps, she'd sit down and she'd watch me play the game. And every time she's like, "Did you ever find out what happened with Diane McClintock? Like, what's going on there?"
All the diary files.
What was the last audio file you got in here? So I'm sitting here searching through. So she was always adamant that go find this. There's so much depth to that game in terms of its story that it's really admirable. I'm very big fan of it.
All the diaries giving you an insight into what happened with all these people, and like the Justine subplot that you have with Ryan's favorite girl and what happened there, and just like the odder things too, like Su Chong, Dr. Su Chong, and his whole I'm going to build better children, and like this whole really interesting like a concept. I mean, it really does kind of probe a lot of not only like philosophical but moral like concepts that nobody really thinks about, but it's always just kind of out there that you always know at some point you kind of make a stand on, and that's whether you're harvesting the little sisters or not. I mean, it's
System Shock 2 players should also take note that there's a lot of similarities there. Same development team.
oh yeah.
But the turrets, the plasmids,
Yeah,
all
turrets,
of it's
plasmids.
very, very familiar. if you've
Hacking
played.
machines for extra. Yeah.
But I think that might also be why I might not have gone as high as Charles because I think I've played so much System Shock 2 that I was reminded of it a little bit.
Well, System Shock 2 really was kind of a seminal title. That really was one of those games that comes along once, maybe every 30, 40 years.
Wow, the game industry hasn't been around that long.
Well, yeah,
40
I know.
years.
but I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Is like it really is one of those games that it only comes around once, and it makes such a serious mark that you just go, okay, we know exactly where all of this shit's being taken from. It's exactly that title. It doesn't matter what the hell comes after it. You know exactly where everything derived from.
Yeah, a lot titles like Grand Theft Auto 3 and Ocarina of Time.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's the same thing. I mean, it's a once in a multi-generational event.
So if you guys want that to come to PS3, I'd recommend sending emails to 2K. It definitely should.
Yeah,
You'd want to see it.
That's how we got the limited edition.
That's true. Darth Bryan would like to know if there's any chance of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix coming to America. I gave Square Enix a call right before we got in here. They were around.
Yep.
And they told me that they have not ruled out the possibility. They can't say if they will or won't, but they're always open to bringing out new franchises here or new installments of the franchise if they think it'll do well. So they haven't really made it a final decision. They're open is the final thing. They also wanted me to let all the listeners know, hey, remember at TGS we're going to make an announcement about Kingdom Hearts franchise in general and its future. So just remember to remind them of that. So this is me reminding you. Don't forget TGS, Kingdom Hearts.
When is when is the TGS there, Jeremy?
TGS just happens to be in a few weeks in Japan. We're sending
Exactly.
Jeff
Yes.
and an army of other IGN editors, so you guys should be
Hey,
well
dog.
covered.
Jeremy, I'm sorry. What did the first Final Mix come out here? Or do you still have to import that? I forgot.
Did not come out here.
No.
Okay. All right. That's what I thought.
But you know why?
I do not. You want to tell me?
No.
Okay.
Angry Shadow Man wants to know. Has a statement. Says, "Kudos to you, Ryan Clements.
Oh, thank you.
He read your
For
preview.
what, though?
He read your preview of Folklore and the choice words you used to help create a visual of what you were describing. That's a weird sentence. I then went to play the demo after I downloaded it, and the picture you painted with your words matched what the actual game looked like. I know it's still early, but you're a great writer, and I look forward to your next preview
Yay.
or hands-on review.
Ryan has a fan.
What's the next piece you're working on?
Well, I just finished writing up a review for Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles, and
That's not so good,
That's
right?
available?
It's just like
well, you'll see it soon.
All right, so
but
there you
I couldn't be as poetic because I wasn't dealing with as a poetic game. But I will be writing the review of Folklore. That's assigned to me. I'm really excited about that. So don't worry that the Folklore article is going to be. It's going to be grand.
Angry Shadow Man also
Grand.
wants you to know that he didn't want his compliment to sound creepy or anything, and he is married.
Well, damn. All right.
Spit kicker.
He's blushing. Wait a second.
I already asked that question. It was
I'm
about
perpetually
Lear.
blushing.
Yay, Larry.
Here I am throwing things away.
Can we pour out a 40 for Lear, people?
Agent
Honestly.
Trav, Greg's old friend, who, by the way, was very
Aw.
vocal on our boards about how happy he was that you missed 2 episodes in a row.
He was going for
He
a
was
hat trick.
also though he showed up on the Lair review and commended me for the Lair review.
That's good.
He said he couldn't believe he was agreeing with me.
He said, actually, it says right here, it's taking a lot for him to type this, but you did a good job, Greg. You indirectly saved him $60, and thank you.
Did you hug it out with Agent Trav?
I did not. We have not run into each other in Germany.
Hug it out.
Hug it out, Mitch.
Just wanted to throw that one in. And then, one final question, which I just inadvertently folded up before I read it. Whoops.
I also have a comment I want to make before we're done,
Okay.
which is important.
It's from Renderman, who apologizes for his myriad of questions last week, which, by the way, was more than a page long of all his questions.
Don't worry about it.
And he just wants to know if we think that Home will change the random madness that is currently the PlayStation Network, and if it will help have create a more unified, community-driven user interface, similar to Xbox Live. I think
hope
anything
so.
could help at this point.
Yeah, but I think one of the biggest things is they need to work on part of the thing with like the friends list, making it a lot easier to add friends, bring them in game, like do it from a game. But there's so many elements of Home that right now it doesn't seem like developers are actually using. I mean, like there've been a couple of games that we've seen demos of recently. For instance, Sony came in with NBA 08. And one of the things that I asked them, because their gallery system really looks a lot like the trophy system that that was shown during GDC at Home, I asked them if that was basically going to be like the first game that had trophies, or if that was going to be like one of the hooks they had, and they're like, well, we've got some of the basic things there, but we're not really like necessarily putting it in. If we decide to put it in, it'll be at a later time. And it's like, you don't really hear any developers actually putting anything with Home functionality in it. I don't think there really has been one that said, yes, we have this feature, or we're going to be supporting this, or we've got these things you can take advantage of with Home when it comes out.
I think the ultimate question is that because they have been sworn to secrecy by Sony and aren't allowed to talk about it, or if it's because they really are not supporting it, and that's the big question. And hopefully we'll get an answer to that by October when we see Home.
Yeah.
What was your comment, Ryan?
I was just going to ask, we still have our Warhawk dedicated server up and running, right?
Sure do.
Yeah, we do. It goes up and down every now and then.
Okay, well-
I think that's just because like unlike the Warhawk rack-mounted PS3 servers, it's just one system, and I think whoever's actually doing the admin for it, which I believe is Nick's, every now and then it just goes down because of whatever.
That's fine. I found it the other night, and me and 3 other IGN people were hanging out, maxing, relaxing. We were like, "Hey, let's play some Warhawk." We're like, "Let's grace the IGN Beyond server and hang out with the readers." There was no one in the server.
Oh, really?
It was so disappointing. Yeah.
What time are you playing?
Hey, you want to play with us? Apparently not.
No.
Friday
I'm just
afternoon,
saying-
early evening. I was on there. There was tons of people.
I'm just saying,
really?
like
Yeah,
it
a bunch of people.
it was prime time. It was like kind of evening.
time? What day?
I'm just Friday night.
Oh, come on, dude. 3-day weekend. People are banging people.
Exactly. they don't want to bang
I gotta go to work on Monday. I better go get some poutine. Bang somebody.
But you know what? I think part of it is that one of the things that happened over the weekend is that some of the servers just like crapped out, or some of the hooks with the network
that's why.
just went straight to hell. So you couldn't get a lot of ranked servers. Even the ones that were listed were kind of just like
I could not get into a ranked server to
all.
save my life this weekend.
And even some of the Sony servers like just went away. And so you're just like, well, what the hell? So
They're gone.
even if you were looking for ones, either people would just give up because there's so many things, which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, I mentioned that in the review, is that some of the network things are still pretty rough, and hopefully they're going to be patching it pretty soon. Like, whatever your stat tracking is, every now and then you might have like an airman or an airman first class ranking. All of a sudden you log in and you're back down to recruit. And you're like, what the fuck? And you go back and forth a couple times, and all of a sudden the server recognizes what you are and finally bumps you up. There's still a couple of network things that they're trying to work out with that game.
And Jeff, how many friend requests have you gotten now since your and my name have been posted on the video review, and people were sneaky and like looked and they were like,
He's gotten at least 3.
Thanks for bringing it back up, Ryan. No, it's been at least 20 or 30 minimum.
Because I would just like to say that it's kind of sad how I suddenly had all these friend requests, and they were like, "Oh, Jeff Haynes, LOL 11," and I was like, "I'm not Jeff." So if you want to be my friend, you have to give a good reason, or else I'm not going to add you.
I agree. I get a lot of requests still.
Like seriously, you can't just be like, "LOL, I love IGN. I don't even know you," and then not give a good reason.
I don't have anyone on my friends list who I don't know personally.
Yeah.
I don't have any fun playing with people.
Once my friends start buying PS3s, then I'll start knocking off people I don't know. Until now, it's just nice to see faces like, oh, I have friends online.
Look at this, I'm popular.
Yeah, I haven't accepted or denied any friends' requests just yet.
I deny them if they think they're Jeff, or they don't give me a good reason for adding.
If they think they're Jeff? Ryan, this is Jeff.
He's like, yeah,
I meant me.
Let's play your chat.
I'm in your friends list, yeah. All right, so
This is totally fun.
the show's over now, by the way.
Oh, really?
We're done.
Yeah, all right.
Greg, you want to take us out with your return song? What'd you pick?
Well, as many people know, the NFL season kicks off this weekend, so I picked the song from the greatest team in the history of the entire world or universe.
Kansas City Chiefs?
Right.
What the hell?
We're the Beyond casting crew, casting on down, doing it for you. We're so bad, we know we're good, blowing your ears like we knew we would. You know we're just casting for fun, casting our stuff for everyone. We're
my
not
God.
here to start no trouble. We're just here to do the Sony PlayStation Shuffle.
Beyond.
You wanted him back, folks. All right, we'll see you next week. Next week, we'll be back with another episode with 50% more Chris Roper.
Beyond.
Yay, Chris Rober.
See you next week, everybody.